All right, hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining this CCRC webinar today. My name is Hannah Lar. I'm a researcher at the Community College Research Center at Teachers College in New York. Also here is my colleague, Amy Brown, CCRC Research Associate. I would like to thank the Ascendium Education Group for their support of CCRC and this institute. We're really excited and pleased to be hosting it and are looking forward to your questions today. We're particularly interested in all the excitement that we've seen across the country so far. So the webinar today will begin with a short presentation about the Institute and the application process. Throughout the webinar today, you can use Zoom's Q&A feature to submit questions. Members of our team, including Serena Klempin, Umika Kumar, and Maggie Fay, will respond to your submitted questions during the presentation. And we may be able to answer a few questions live at the end of the presentation if we have some time. Before we get into the Institute details, we wanted to talk briefly about our motivation for hosting this Institute. At CCRC, we study community colleges because they provide critical access to post-secondary education and are uniquely positioned to promote equity and social mobility. Our mission is to conduct research that helps these institutions strengthen opportunities and improve outcomes for all students, particularly those from underserved populations. For the last several years, our team at CCRC has been studying the implementation of guided pathways at almost 120 colleges across the country. And we have learned about how colleges are motivating guided pathways reforms, managing the change process, and how colleges are funding these reforms. This institute will reflect findings from the latest research on topics that are essential to guided pathways implementation, and will be informed by what we have learned about how colleges are approaching whole college redesign work. At this first institute, we are focusing on supporting rural and rural serving institutions. As part of the Institute, we are also eager to learn more about the opportunities and challenges they face and support these institutions in the early stages of planning and implementing guided pathways. And now I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Amy Brown.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. So just to start, I'm going to offer a framing of how we can think about the potential for guided pathways reforms to facilitate equity. And so we open with three facets of educational equity to help frame some of the questions that the Institute will cover related to the potential for large-scale college redesign efforts to facilitate equity. So the first facet is opportunities and outcomes, the second, educational experiences, and the third, converting opportunities into achievements. So when we think about equity related to both opportunities and outcomes, some of the questions that we'll be examining with college teams are, what programs are our students currently enrolled in, and what opportunities do these programs lead to? And who is underrepresented in our college's higher opportunity programs? Related to equity of educational experiences, we'll be thinking through with colleges about what are the barriers to students' entry into, progress through, and success in our college's programs, what strategies can be scaled to support students to thrive and succeed in their programs, and how can we integrate equity-minded practices and supports into institutional redesign efforts, as well as how can we maximize the impacts of resources and supports directed to historically underserved students of the colleges. And when considering how institutions can help students convert opportunities into real achievements, we ask, how can colleges support students' development of aspirations, facilitate real opportunities, and create circumstances that lead to their achievement? So you'll notice throughout there's a thread of programs of study, and that's going to have a prominent part in the Institute. This slide covers some of the goals that we have for participating college teams. And so you'll notice three elements in this funnel. We have the key guided pathways concepts, institution-specific data, and implementation planning. And these three elements are ones that college teams will be engaging with throughout the Institute with increasing complexity and specificity as the Institute progresses. And so in a little more detail, college teams will be identifying opportunities to enact guided pathways reforms and understanding how to mobilize resources to support those efforts. They'll be applying insights from analyses of their institution's program enrollment, course taking, and completion patterns to address barriers to student success. and they'll be using data to make the case for change, assess progress, and shape efforts to scale and sustain reforms. All of these goals will be contributing to college-specific implementation plans that will guide each college's reform work over the next 6 months and beyond. As you may have noticed in our materials online, we have somewhat of a data emphasis to the Institute, and so we just wanted to go over what the expectations are and what data means for us within this Institute. So the data exercises that we'll ask your college team to complete are designed to support the planning discussions that your team will have during the Institute. We will focus on program level data and expect that these data will be slightly different than what your college may have looked at previously in data work that you've done. The data exercises are intended to be a relatively easy lift and won't involve anything fancier than Excel. So this is by no means an institute for institutional research folks exclusively. It's for college teams with representatives from across the institution and with varying levels of experience working directly with college data. We're going to try to make it very approachable. And in addition, we at CCRC will be working with your college to make sure you can complete the pre-work if you're selected to participate. So we just wanted to clarify that this institute is functioning in 2 different sessions. And so each college team that's participating would be participating in one of these sessions. So we have the first session running from June 14th through the 24th with synchronous content on the days listed below. And then the second session is running from July 12th through the 22nd with, again, the synchronous content on those 4 days. So on your application, your college team will identify your preferred session, and we'll be selecting 8 to 10 college teams to participate in each session. And we'll do our best to be responsive to the availability that you listed for your team. This slide helps to depict the Institute structure. And so this is the experience that each college team will be going through. So to start, selected colleges will receive data pre-work in early May to complete in advance of the Institute. And during the 2-week session, you will participate in 4 hours of synchronous content on Mondays and Fridays. And we listed that the hours for that engagement are 11 to 1 and 3 to 5 Eastern time. So during the 2-week session, during Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, your team will be engaged in asynchronous activities that will likely total 8 to 10 hours across the 2 weeks. In late September, we will invite all participating teams from both sessions to join in a post-institute virtual mini-conference. And in addition, teams will receive ongoing support from institute coaches through the end of the calendar year. Now I will pass it back to Hannah.
All right, thank you, Amy. So after reading the materials we have on our website, hearing what we're talking about today in this webinar, if your college decides that this institute may be a good opportunity for you, we wanted to speak a little bit about who should apply and what to include in your application. We have 3 key criteria to help you determine if your college is eligible to participate. First, it's important that you are a rural and/or rural serving public community college. We've received a lot of questions about how we define rural and rural serving institutions, and there is no simple definition that we can really point to. So to that end, we've tried to include some guidelines to help colleges determine whether they qualify. So on our website, we list that colleges are either designated by the U.S. Department of Education as being rural, are located in small towns far from a city, or enroll a large portion of students who live in rural areas. That being said, many colleges will be self-identifying as rural or rural serving and providing a brief description of the community and students that you serve as part of your application. Second, the Institute content is being designed for colleges that are familiar with guided pathways reforms, but are still in the early stages of their planning and implementation. Third, we're targeting colleges that have not received much technical assistance or state support for their guided pathways reform work to date. This doesn't mean that we're wholly excluding all colleges in states that have held a convening or an institute related to guided pathways, for example, But in our selection process, we are prioritizing colleges that have largely not received much support or guidance thus far. Finally, we're accepting one application per interested college that outlines the team members who will participate in the Institute. We've also received a lot of questions about who should be included in the team. So ideally, the team will reflect a pre-existing group at a college that is working on an initiative or proposal related to guided pathways or whole college reform, and will continue to work together on guided pathways after the Institute. We recommend including someone familiar with institutional data on the team and someone with decision-making power and some access to budgets, as well as staff and administrators involved in advising, student services, recruitment and retention, or diversity, equity, and inclusion. We also recommend that the teams include faculty or deans from transfer and CTE programs. We do expect that all team members will participate in all or nearly all of the Institute activities. And on the application, we do ask that you tell us who you're expecting to include on the team and why you've selected those people to be included. I want to go over a couple important dates that are also outlined on our website. So applications are going to be due on March 15th via Google Form. On the right panel of the Institute pages on our website, you can download a Word document of the application that can be used as a worksheet before submitting the final responses in the Google form. CCRC will review all the applications and reach out to teams under consideration for a short interview during the final weeks of March, and we will notify the selected teams during the week of April 5th. In the first week of announcing the Institute, we've received a lot of interest and emails, and which, as I said before, we're really excited about this. We anticipate that we are going to be having to make some difficult decisions, though, in a few weeks once we've received the applications and are speaking to the teams under consideration. We wanted to offer some additional information here about elements of your application that are important to our selection process beyond the eligibility criteria. So first, it's important that your college leadership has made some commitment to embarking on large-scale whole college reform work. This commitment is key to help make the case for change, to allocate some institutional time and resources towards the effort, and to be able to implement and sustain planned reforms. Second, we'll want to read a compelling articulation of how this institute can support your college's redesign work. This means giving us a clear sense of where you are currently, how you see this institute as contributing to your college's progress, and why now is the right time for your college to take on or further your pathways work. Third, we'll want to see a clear rationale for the team members who will be participating. So in your application, we'll want to get a sense for who is represented, what does each person offer, how do you work together, and what are you working on together now and in the future. So I want to thank everyone who submitted questions. I want to thank Serena and Omika and Maggie for responding. And I want to just check in with Amy to see if there's some questions that we can answer right now.
There are a couple questions that haven't been answered quite yet. Just to address to folks, the recording will be available on our website. We're going to upload the recording of this presentation. And we have some questions that are about specific institutions, whether they're eligible or not. It's a little, sometimes the case-by-case questions are even challenging for us to answer at times because there's not a single definition or any type of governmental label for what constitutes a rural serving institution. And sometimes it's hard for us to know exactly where your students are coming from. And so the rural college eligibility question continues to be one that we encounter, but we're happy to work one-on-one with you to help figure out what makes sense given the guidelines that we've laid out. And there have been a couple questions about folks that have participated in some types of guided pathways work at the state level. And as we addressed, we know that there are some colleges in states that have guided pathways work that have taken on that work more fully with the state system than others. And so our primary interest is serving colleges that haven't been supported as much by those types of efforts. But if you are in a state where that has happened, it doesn't exclude you. We just want to hear exactly what will be contributing and why will be helpful to you. We also have a question that was just submitted that asked, are state level teams eligible? For example, system offices, coordinating boards, etc. Hannah, do you want to take that one?
Sure. So in the presentation today, we primarily focused on college teams. We are accepting applications from state level teams. And by that, we're really thinking about teams from a system type office that would be interested in this institute. And we are particularly interested in a system level team if there are also colleges from that state that would be interested in attending this as well. So if there's a state where there's a couple of colleges that are applying, we would encourage a system level team to apply as well.
Just wanted to respond to a couple questions. We have a question about colleges that are part of a system initiative such as California. So we know that for some colleges in California, they've been involved in very targeted direct support initiatives in the state, and there are others that have been less involved. And so this would be more of an opportunity for colleges that have not been as engaged in state level supports. And so you would be making a case for that in your application. And yes, just to answer the question, you're welcome to email me with any questions or visit our website for more information about the webinar. And we will be providing the link to the recorded session. We'll be emailing that back to everyone who has registered for this webinar. So you'll be receiving it and it will be uploaded to our website.
All right, I think that's all the questions that we've gotten. I would encourage you please to email us. Amy's email is listed here. You can also reach out to me. My name is Hannah Lar. We're happy to answer any questions you have about whether you're eligible. We'll try to provide some guidance on that. Though, as we talked about, we are interested in colleges and kind of telling us why and telling us how you're a rural serving institution and explaining about the community that you serve. So again, if you have any questions, please follow up with us. And we are eager to see your applications on March 15th. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.